I am really excited for today's edition of Write on Wednesday, how to choose a Common App prompt, not the Common App. It's one of the first hurdles that students are really coming up against when they begin to prepare their college applications. You've written persuasive essays in the past, you've written literary analyses and things of that nature, but it's kind of hard to write about true events, write about yourself in a way that's creative and in a way that conveys an important message about yourself. Now, the Common App essay is one that has a lot of breadth to it, where there are 7 options to choose from when you're answering the question that they give. You have 7 questions that you can choose from, and you only write one. So you don't need to write 7 essays. You just write one essay that answers one of the questions, and that's the one that goes to all the colleges to which you apply. The Common App essay is meant to be anywhere between 250 and 650 words, but as with any other essay, you want to write within 10% of the word limit. So writing about 600 words is going to be sort of the minimum if you want to have a really strong application. Writing 250 words, while concise, isn't necessarily going to give you the most opportunity to talk about yourself, to share important messages, and to help admissions officers get to know you as they're reading through your application. And you want to be filling up the space that you have. I think my Common App essay when I was done was 649 words, but I'm also sort of what I call a fat writer, where I'll write far too much, write over 1,000 words for a 650 word essay, and then go back and cut down so I can meet the word limit. With that in mind, you want to remember as well that the Common App essay is the one that's going to all of your colleges. So a ton of readers are going to take a look at this essay, and they might be coming at it with really different perspectives based on the colleges and programs to which you're applying. So you have to make sure that this is something that speaks to you fundamentally, something that talks about you as a whole person, not just one niche that you might be filling. This is especially important for schools where you might be applying into different programs. For example, if you're only applying to some schools as an engineering major, and some schools don't even have that, you definitely don't want to be focusing in on STEM, because you want to have something that's not going to alienate the colleges where you're not applying into their STEM-heavy programs. I'm going to get into sort of an overview of the Common App. The Common App essay, as I said, is the best way for admissions officers to get to know you. SAT scores, your transcript, your grades, your course load, these things provide a quantitative picture of you as a student, and the Common App essay offers something different. It's kind of a refreshing glimpse into your identity, your personality, and who you are in general. Since your Common App essay is going to be seen by all of your schools, or at least very many of them, you want it to be painting a portrait that is accessible to a breadth of institutions and admissions officers. Like I said, you don't want to apply using your Common App essay space to talk all about STEM and engineering if that's not something you want to do at every school to which you're applying. Excuse me. That's the kind of information that you can put into your supplemental essays, which most schools will require you to write in addition to the Common App essay. You have to be open to writing about yourself in a sort of vulnerable way, talking about the things that you love, things that scare you maybe, and the things that really make you who you are. This can be sports, or music, or politics, or food, or watching movies. It can be anything, but it's more of a conversation than a job interview. One thing you want to avoid is rehashing your resume or your extracurricular profile. These are things that the admissions officers are going to get to see regardless. So you want to write your Common App essay about something that shows a perspective on you as a person. Now, as I said, there are 7 different prompts for the Common App. You choose one to write in response, and they each ask a slightly different question, but each one is trying to get to the heart of who you are, which I will keep saying over and over again. And so one piece of advice that I generally give is that students should put out ideas and topics and stories and things that they want to write about in their Common App essay without even thinking about what prompt they might be answering. Once you have an idea, a start of a framework, then you can go back and decide which topic or which question your essay will most neatly answer. And then you can start tailoring what you have to fit that question. You should certainly make sure that your essay is answering the question that you say you're answering. But you have such flexibility with these 7 prompts and such versatility that you don't have to worry too much from the outset which exactly of those prompts you're going to be addressing. I do want to dive into the prompts a little more, so I want to start just with number 1. The first prompt reads, "Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story." You'll notice that there's no direct question here. It's asking you to share your story. And that story should relate to your unique background, identity, interest, or talent that you find so meaningful you would think that someone couldn't get to know you without knowing this thing about you. So this prompt offers the opportunity to engage with your favorite extracurricular or your favorite academic subject. It allows you to weave a narrative that displays personal growth in that area by asking you to share a story and share your story. An essay that displays your personality and a unique interest can be attention-grabbing, particularly if you have an unconventional passion, like blogging about Chinese basketball or unicycling. I had one student I worked with write a fantastic essay towards this prompt, all about how their mother was a henna tattoo artist and how they learned their own style of henna tattoo by embracing what their mother taught them and then tweaking it and making it their own. So it was an essay that was about self-exploration through the topic of this specific passion that, stuck out a little bit. A lot of students think they don't have something worth talking about for this prompt, but I often think to students that they should just start making a list of things they like to do that would never appear on a resume or a list of extracurricular activities. And that's the kind of topic that can really give some insight into who you are and what makes you tick. Don't feel intimidated, is what I'm trying to say, if you don't have a passion that you think feels immediately unique. Even super cool and niche things like scuba diving won't necessarily translate as an essay topic if it's not written with personal insight and individuality. Instead of trying to impress readers by making up unusual or shocking things, think about how you spend your free time, like I said, and ask yourself why you spend it that way. Also think about what your upbringing, your identity, and experiences that you have, and ask yourself, why has this impacted me in a meaningful way, if it has at all? I want to talk quickly through a few examples. You can talk about background, identity, interests, and so I'm going to go through some ideas related to each of those, starting with background, because a person's background includes a wide swath of experiences, trainings, education, culture, and you can discuss the experience of growing up, interacting with your family, how your relationships have molded you into who you are. The background that you have can include long-term interactions with art or music, sciences, sports, writing, many other learned skills. And it also includes your social environments and how they've influenced your perception. In addition, you can highlight intersections between multiple parts of your background or multiple backgrounds in general, and you can show how each one is essential to you. So, for example, one of the people I work with wrote about how growing up in a poor Vietnamese immigrant family inspired her to seize big opportunities, even if they were a little risky or challenging. And she described the emotional demand of opening and running a family grocery store. And I'm going to read you an excerpt from the essay. Note that this has been shortened and edited, and also names have been changed to protect people's identity. An opportunity knocked on my parents' door. A grocery store in the town of Dennis, Mississippi was up for rent. My parents took the chance, risking all of their savings, and on the first day, the business brought in exactly $20. My mother and my father wept after they closed the shop. Seeing the business as a failure, my mom commenced packing that night. Returning to Vietnam seemed inevitable. The next business day, however, sales increased tenfold. More and more customers came each successive day, and my mom's tears turned into, well, more tears, but they were tears of joy. My mother unpacked a bag each night. 15 years later, my parents now own Blue Ravine Grocery. My parents work to keep the shelves stocked and the customers coming. The grocery store holds a special place in my heart. It's the catalyst for my success. So when the opportunity to attend the Mississippi School for Mathematics and Science presented itself, I took it and ran, as my parents did by leaving Vietnam and by buying the store. Although the opportunities that my parents and I pursued are quite different, our journey is the same. We walk a road paved with uncertainty and doubt, with the prospect of success fortified by our hearts and our hands. Now, this excerpt tells the whole story overall. It opens with an anecdote and uncertainty, and it closes on reflection. That's what your essay should do in the aggregate. Now, one thing I want to bring your attention to here is that it opens on a story about the author's parents. You want to make sure, if you're going to use this kind of narrative, that you make the essay about you as much as possible. The parents are a great starting point, but you have to show how you are going to be interacting with these things and how it paves the way for your background. Moving on from background, identity is encompassing things like racial identity, ethnic identity, sexual orientation, gender, or simply your place within a specific community. Even communities as unique, say, as players of World of Warcraft. And in addition, you have to make sure that if you're talking about any sort of insular communities, whether that's one related to where you grew up or small culture, you have to make sure that you are letting people in and not building up walls, because otherwise it can be difficult for a reader who's not part of that community to understand the messages and the lessons that you're trying to impart. Alternatively, focusing on a dominant personality trait can also make for a compelling theme. For example, if you are extremely outgoing, you could explain how your adventurousness has allowed you to learn from a diverse group of friends and the random situations you find yourself in. One important thing to note: the topic of identity can easily lack originality if you cover a common experience, like feeling divided between cultures or coming out. These are important and really meaningful things for many people, and that's not to discount or invalidate that meaning or that significance in your life. However, they are topics that have been written about extensively, and so it takes more effort and more originality to stand out when you write about a topic like this. That's simply because admissions officers reading these essays have seen some version of them many times, so striking a unique chord is going to be more difficult. If such experiences were super integral to who you are and you must write about them, you should. You shouldn't feel that you can't. But you should be sure to show your unique introspection and reflection. Why is this unique to you? One of our consultants back in the day wrote in their Common App essay about growing up in Germany as an American. and how it led to feelings of displacement. Then they moved back to America in high school, and that only exacerbated their feelings of rootlessness. Her transcultural experiences, however, allowed her to relate to other quote-unquote new Americans, particularly refugees, and helping a young refugee girl settle into the US eventually helped this writer find a home in America as well. So the unique spin there is that they used their own experiences to help somebody else. I'm going to read you an excerpt that has been, again, shortened and edited so that you can see how this essay progresses. Growing up, I always wanted to eat, play, visit, watch, and be it all. Sloppy Joes and Spetzel, Beanie Babies and Steiff, Cape Cod and the Baltic Sea, football and foosball, American and German. After moving from Berlin to New York at age 15, my feelings of cultural homelessness thrived in my new environment. Americans confused me as I relied on Urban Dictionary to understand my peers. The Pledge of Allegiance seemed nationalistic, and the only familiar thing about Fahrenheit was the German after whom it was named. During my first weeks in America, I discovered Home Now, a non-profit that empowers resettled refugees or new Americans to thrive. I started volunteering with Home Now children's programs, playing with and tutoring young refugees. It was there that I met Laya, a 12-year-old Iraqi girl. In between games and snacks, Laya would ask me questions about American life, touching on everything from Halloween to President Obama. Gradually, my confidence in my American identity grew as I recognized my ability to answer most of her questions. Together, we worked through conflicting allegiances, homesickness, and stretched belonging, forging a special, personal bond with young refugees proved a cathartic outlet for my insecurities, as it taught me to value my past. My transculturalism allowed me to help young refugees integrate into American life, and in doing so, I was able to adjust myself. You can see how they take a common topic of immigrating to the United States, and they make a unique story out of it. It's not just about struggling to find a place to fit in, it's about how they ultimately did fit in by helping other people who were even more sort of estranged from mainstream American culture than they were. Lastly, I want to touch on interest, because interest is something else that was mentioned in the prompt. If you wanted to write about that, interests are basically synonymous with activities in this case, but it's slightly broader. You can say that interests encompass activities kind of the way squares are rectangles, but rectangles aren't squares. Participation in an interest is often less organized than in an activity. For instance, you might run cross-country as an activity, but cook or paint as an interest. Writing about an interest is a way to highlight passions that may not come across in the rest of your application. For example, if you're a wrestler, writing about your interest in stand-up comedy would be a refreshing addition to your application. And you should also feel free to use this topic to show what an important activity on your application really means to you. Keep in mind, however, that a lot of schools will ask you to describe one of your activities in their supplemental essays, usually about 250 words. So choose strategically. You don't want to write twice about the same thing in 2 different essays.